Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Anna Smith, and I have the privilege of serving as our interim deputy mayor for education, and I will be hosting our conversation this evening. We're going to jump in and spend most of our time talking in your small groups at your table. We have facilitators at every table. Facilitators, if you just want to raise your hand and make sure that you've introduced yourselves to everyone at your table. These are the folks who are going to help make sure that we come away from this evening with all of the insight and feedback and advice, recommendations that you all have to offer. So thank you for being here this evening, and we're going to go ahead and jump right in. There we go. Great. So our plan this evening is to be brief. I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes and then turn it over to our facilitators, but give you an overview of the evening, how we want to spend our time tonight. And then we'll talk a little bit about a couple of the big pressing questions that we are asking your help in giving us information and input with which we will pass forward to the mayor as she makes her chancellor selection. Then we will take some time at the end of our table discussions and report out and hear where our conversations went, some of the high-level information that is come out of your conversations. Now, your facilitators are going to be working diligently to record all the information, both substantive and comments and quotes that you all offer, as well as the high level where we end up in our conversation on what the things are that we think are most important as part of this process. But I also want to make sure I call out and point you to the back of your sheet. If there are questions, comments, concerns, something that you are dying to make sure that we take away from this evening, I encourage you to write in that box. We will gather those. All of those will be collected. If there are specific things that either are questions that you don't have an opportunity to have answered, or feedback that you really want to make sure we gather. So keep that in mind. That is a running opportunity for you. So the goals for tonight are to really understand where we are in this moment in time. We have the opportunity before us to select the next chancellor of DC Public Schools. So we're going to provide you a little bit of context about where we are in DCPS and why this selection is so important to the future of our schools. We'll talk about where we are in the process, what this engagement and selection and hiring process looks like, and then we will really turn it over to you to get your feedback. So I want to take a moment and just call out a few successes, a few challenges that we know that we have faced in DC Public Schools in the last year. We have a lot to celebrate. Given our recent park scores, which is just one measure of how our schools are doing, we know that we have seen continued and sustained improvements. But we also know that it's not enough. We know that more of our students are prepared for college and career, but it's not sufficient. We have more students that we know need excellent opportunities to learn, grow, and thrive. But we have seen student achievement continue to improve, satisfaction improve, and also programming that is enabling our students to do amazing things. More than 800 students participated in internship learning opportunities this summer alone. And those are the students who are back in our schools, learning and growing and taking advantage of the curricular activities and opportunities that our schools are providing. But we also know that we have persistent gaps. What our most recent park scores told us were that we continue to see all students improving, but some of our students, not enough. Our English language learners, our students with disabilities, our students of color. We really have more work to do. We know that our graduation rates are still not where we want them to be, and that too few of our students are college and career ready. So in that context, just a quick moment on the chancellor. What does the chancellor do? Why is this role particularly important? So when we think about the more than 4,000 educators, raise your hand if you're an educator in the room tonight. Yes, thank you, educators. Cheers to you, yes. The chancellor is driving the vision and the direction. How are we hiring? How are we supporting our teachers, our principals, our students and families? What are the priorities we're setting forth? It's everything from operations and management to education and pedagogical direction that this individual is responsible for. And we know that all of those skills that are needed for a chancellor to be successful are things that we want to be looking for in the next chancellor. We also have a particular moment in time where we know that, and we've heard from community members, that there are things like transparency, accountability, a focus on equity, continue to be things that we know that we want a chancellor to be focused on. And so as you engage in your table discussions, I want to make sure that we are thinking about, what does this individual do? Why do I think a particular experience or perspective is important for this individual? It's important for us to make sure that we are focused on what this person's job is. So a quick overview of the Chancellor search process. I'm going to make a plug for our website, ourschools.dc.gov, where you can find lots of information about the process. The mayor will have the opportunity to select the next chancellor of DC Public Schools, and as part of that process, we are doing extensive community engagement. One of the pieces of the engagement is the Our Schools Leadership Committee. I'd love to ask our committee members just to raise their hand. We have a number of them in attendance. We have parents, we have teachers, we have students, we have community members, community leaders on this committee. You can find the list of all of them on ourschools.dc.gov. And these are individuals that were appointed by the mayor to help advise. They've worked closely with my office, with the mayor's office of talent and appointments, to help guide how we engage, to give us feedback about the types of questions we're asking, the online survey that we created that's found online, the types of focus groups that we want to have. We actually just did 2 focus groups with educators. We're going to do one with principals. We're going to do one with students. And the advisory committee is ultimately going to take all this information in from this forum, from our remaining forum, from all of you, from what is submitted via email and in writing, and synthesize all of that in a final report to the mayor to tell her, here's what we've heard from the community. Here are the things that we think are most important as you consider the selection of the next chancellor. So we thank our Schools Leadership Committee for their insight, for their guidance, and they're all here to participate and just to hear and listen to all of you and what you have to offer. So that's part of our citywide engagement. We have 3 forums in total. This is number 2. The next one will be at Brooklyn Middle School, excuse me. We will have those focus groups I referenced, as well as a Facebook Live opportunity and an online survey that I encourage you to share far and wide. And finally, a search process. My colleague Steve Walker with the Mayor's Office of Talent and Appointments is leading that process, and I will turn it to him just to speak briefly about what that looks like from his vantage.
Great, thank you, Anna. How's everybody doing? How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing? We are excited because we started a process and the mayor wanted to make sure, as Anna said, that we get direct feedback from the residents of Washington, D.C. on what values are important and that she will use in selecting the next chancellor. So the first thing I want to do is thank the members of Our School Leadership Committee who are here. I know Anna said their names. If you can please just stand so everyone knows who you are. Like us, we are here today to hear from you. We want to know what is important. So we're going to do less talking from us, and we want to do more listening from you. What is important in the selection of the chancellor? So this process today, plus what Our Schools Leadership Committee is going to be doing, will help the mayor in making her decision. And if I can say something over and over and over again, it would be to go to ourschools.dc.gov, where you'll find information that you got here today, but also where we want you to send us recommendations. You probably know someone out there that you think would be a good candidate. Please send that go to the website where there will be a field where you can put that information in, or you can email ourschools@dc.gov. So Our Schools twice. Ourschools.dc.gov is the website where you get the information. And send us feedback, send us recommendations, send us nominations to ourschools@dc.gov. I'm going to be walking around to as many tables as I possibly can today to hear from you and answer questions that you may have. And again, thank you all for being here tonight.
All right. So Again, you can find on our website all of the opportunities to engage. We will summarize these again at the end of the evening. This takes you through all of the conversations and opportunities that we have had and will have for our engagement. And now we turn it over to the exciting part. So most of the rest of the evening is going to be led by your facilitators at your table. These are colleagues who work throughout the Executive Office of the Mayor and district government who are going to help lead the conversation. But before we jump into the two activities that you're going to spend the rest of the evening on, I want to make sure we're taking a few minutes to do an icebreaker. Introduce yourselves to the folks at your table. Who are you? What brings you to the conversation tonight? What are you most excited about? And at this moment in time, we also want to make sure we're getting a pulse check. How are folks feeling as we enter in the conversation? And tell us a little bit more about your feelings about the direction, where DCPS is and where we're headed. And then we'll turn into a couple specific questions and conversations that we will have. So go ahead and start your introductions, and I will bring us back in about 5 minutes.
That's how I should have started off. I am employed because of this wonderful black woman.
Our priorities from our personal perspective. So for the two questions that I'm going to walk us through and that your facilitators will facilitate the discussion on are the two most important pieces of information that we want to gather from you tonight. One, what are the most important priorities for DC Public Schools for the next years? One of the things we wanted to make sure we were referencing and telling folks about is the DCPS strategic plan. So most of you should have that on your table. If you don't, we will come around and add some more as one of the references. Coming out of the last Chancellor search process and a whole lot of engagement with DC Public Schools community and stakeholders and educators, DCPS released this strategic plan last summer to highlight the areas that they want to focus on. So these are the current priorities that DCPS is working towards. Are these the right ones? What else might we want to make sure we're focusing on? What is new and different? What do we want to build upon from these priorities? So the first question that you're going to take time to think about is, what do you think are the top 5? You have space on your worksheet. You're going to talk through what do you personally think are the most important priorities for DC Public Schools in the coming years? And then you're going to have time to have a conversation, because the challenge is going to be, as a table, to whittle that down to the top 3. You're going to listen to your table mates. You're going to understand where other folks are coming from, what priorities might be similar, what priorities might be different. And your challenge will be to come up with the top 3 for your entire table. So just again referencing the strategic plan, and we can bring more around, but the top 5 of promoting equity, empowering people, ensuring excellent schools, educating the whole child, and engaging families. That's what DCPS is currently working toward. I encourage you to reference that, to look through that document, but also to think even more broadly if that's what you would like. Second activity, the second question, and I will give us some time checks throughout the process, but mostly you'll just see how your table progresses through these two questions, is what's most important for the mayor to consider as she selects the next chancellor? What are the qualities, traits, skills, experiences that you think we should most focus on, that we should most desire and search for through the formal hiring and selection process that the mayor will be undertaking? For your reference, we've also included the DCPS Rising community report. This is the culmination of all of the engagement and conversation we had when we last selected a chancellor. And I think what we heard at the last forum, what we've heard from focus groups from teachers, and what we've heard from online survey folks who've completed the survey, is that some of this really remains true. That these still are some of the things that we really want to look for in a chancellor. I encourage you to take a look at some of those, but for your reference, it's visionary, a resilient leader, someone who can authentically engage. So it's a starting point. I think this is the opportunity to dig deeper. What else do we want to make sure that the mayor is thinking about? What is new or different that we want to make sure we are reflecting on? So once again, you're going to think about, what do I think are the top 5 things that the chancellor should have or embody? And then as a table, you will identify your top 3. So again, so you have 2 questions, and your table will progress at the rate of your own conversation. But you're going to talk to us about the top priorities for DCPS that you want to relay, getting to the top 3 for your table. And then you're going to talk about what are the top characteristics that we want to select in a chancellor. Any questions before I turn it over for the rest of the conversations at your tables? Thank you, everyone. I will turn it back to our talented facilitators. I encourage you to think boldly and to really make sure that we are hearing all of the feedback and insight that you have to offer. I will give us a 5-minute warning when we're going to come back together and start sharing out. My last piece of advice request is to make sure that you are selecting who is going to report out for your table, because we'll go around the room and share out what some of the conversations yielded. Thank you, and I look forward to coming back together.
So I can see someone coming into the job on eggshells, given the last person who's like here less than a year. And that person is, she'll read whatever, she was confident. She knew that no matter what she did, right, good or bad, right? And I don't realize. Does anyone want to speak? No, I want not to.
Who's at a table from that side of the camera? Send your reporter over to my colleague Alex, one person who's going to report out on one of your questions. Go ahead and line up over there. Everyone on these tables, send your one person who's going to report out over to me. And we're going to report out on one of the questions. Tell us what were the top 3 priorities or characteristics that your table discussed. Where did you land? Now's our opportunity to make sure we hear out from one another. We're going to do the quick share out, and then we're going to wrap for the evening. I'm going to make sure that you know all the ways that we are capturing this information. So I don't see enough reporters. Come on over here to me, please. So I'm going to turn it over to Alex and his group because they've gotten more organized. Folks from tables at this side, over here to me, please. Alex. Why don't we go ahead and get started with your side?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Sheila Bunn, and I was at table number 7. Woo, table number 7. So the first question we're going to report out on is question number 1, top 5 priorities you believe the next DCPS chancellor should most focus on. So I had a great team of folks at table number 7, and we bucked the system. We don't believe that any one particular of the 5 is most important. We saw these five examples as from a holistic view. So we chose ensuring excellent schools in all 8 wards as our building block. And there are 4 prongs to that building block. In order to ensure that all of our kids have excellent schools in all 8 wards, we must engage our families. If our families are not engaged, you can't have an excellent school. If our parents don't believe that they have a voice in their children's education, you won't have an excellent school. We must also empower our people. To get to that excellent school, we have to have leaders and educators and administrators who believe that we can achieve excellent schools and that we can promote equity in all of our schools. That equity is the 3rd prong of our pillar. And the 4th prong to get to excellent schools in all 8 wards is making sure that we educate the whole child. So if you engage families, empower our people, promote equity, and educate the whole child, what do you end up with? Excellent all 8 wards, from Ward 1 to Ward 8, from west of the river to the east end of the city. And I'm sorry, we bucked the system too, so we want to answer number 2. If I can go real quick. All right, so in terms of the qualities of the chancellor, there were 3 big buckets: professional educator, leadership, effective communicator. A professional educator, that person should have an instructional background and an urban education. Under leadership, that person should be a visionary, a strategic thinker who has the ability to inspire staff. Because if you can't inspire your staff, you can't have excellent schools. An effective communicator, someone who has the ability to engage the public and who can work with the community and families to ensure that the policies that are created with and for them are about them and with their voice. Thank you. Table number 7.
I'm Zakia from Table 12, and I'm just going to give you the top 3 for the second question. We feel that it's really important for a chancellor to have grit and insistence and tenacity in how they come in and how they are able to govern things. We think it's critically important that the new chancellor have fire in their belly for marginalized students that will help them navigate the tensions of serving a school population that's gentrifying and all the things that are happening. And then the last one I'll share is that we think it's really important that they have superior management skills. DCPS is like running a business.
All right, I'm Quentin Harrison representing the 6, not Toronto, but Table 6. And I'm going to talk about the characteristics that we want in the next chancellor. We want to be ethical, to be trustworthy and transparent, to be an experienced educator and a committed district leader, not just someone who flash in the pan, but someone who has been in the trenches, been in the classroom for multiple years, been a principal for multiple years, have served in many different leadership roles in a district, and senior leadership roles in a district. And lastly, that this person exhibits leadership. They have the temperament to be chancellor here in DC. They know how to manage a crisis and also help prevent it. That they're a change agent, and and not just being the change agent, but being a change agent, but also involving the stakeholders that will be affected by whatever changes they bring about.
I'm gonna try to stay within. James Israel, teacher here in Ward 8, Hart Middle School. So I'm coming from table 2, is that right? 2, right here. So our top 3 priorities, we felt like all of the strategic priorities were basically a circle. And so some of them fell within the same umbrella, but our top piece is promote equity. We want students to be able to go to stellar schools within all of our wards, and not having to kind of go bouncing around or being on a waiting list, but they're able to go to all of the schools that are stellar. We want to make sure that we're educating the whole child, and we also want to engage families. I think that was 30 seconds.
Hi, my name is Ryan Jones. I'm from Table 13. Really quickly, out of the top 5 priorities, we chose educate the whole child. We think that in general, there are a lot of external factors that could potentially hinder a student's education opportunities. So we think educating both their whole, giving wraparound services will help kind of amend some of those situations. And then also we felt like a lot of our students who need special education services just aren't necessarily being serviced fully. So we want to make sure that's a top priority. Under 5 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rain. I am a DCPS parent and also Footprints teacher. At our table number 18, our top 3 priorities was educate the whole child, especially social and emotional learning. Equity, which means increasing funding and programming and resources and space at all schools, especially schools in Ward 7 and 8. Woo! And also, and with equity too, increasing in funding for programming, for instance, like Footprints, this should be given to all schools, and other community programs that have been effective, and investment in DCPS community schools, and family engagement. Awesome, thank you. Yes.
Hey everyone, my name is Chandler Cleveland. I am with the great table of 14. And so we'll answer the second question, skills that we feel the Chancellor should have. So first, we want a Chancellor that has fresh ideas, one that knows how to be a systems thinker, one that has a diverse background. Secondly, we want someone who is politically astute, relational, and gets out into the community to actually learn about the needs of the people and doesn't prioritize one area of the city over another. And lastly, they need to be committed to staying for the long term. That's so important that they can only grow if they are here actually taking that time, taking years to actually know the community so they can serve it better.
Okay, great. My name is Rachel. I was with Table 10, and our top 3 priorities were building strong neighborhood schools that are equitable and different offerings from language programs to career tracks, and that's done by talking to neighbors within the community of the school to make sure that parents aren't running away from a school that they don't necessarily know why they're running away from it. Also using trauma-informed teaching and trauma-informed care in the classroom, given that so many DCPS students have adverse childhood experiences. And then also promoting human rights education, given the fact that we are a human rights city.
Good evening, beautiful people. My name is Devon Lassine.
Okay, quick, 10 seconds.
Okay, so our top 3 was to empower people, equity across all schools, educate the whole child, and then for the new chancellor, we would love the qualities of being a strategic thinker, leadership, urban education communicator, and a visionary.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bravo, clap, let's cheer for everyone, for all of you and the amazing ideas that you have shared. I'm going to close this out because I also want to be respectful and mindful of our educators and our staff here at Savoy that have welcomed us and hosted us this evening. Just a quick reminder, what's next? Stay engaged. As we've shared, there's ongoing opportunities to make sure that your and our other residents and neighbors and families' voices are heard. Please go to ourschools.dc.gov. You'll see the synthesis of the feedback and the notes, letters that are sent to the committee and to the mayor. We share those to show you that we are taking all of this information in, and it will be rolled up and shared as part of our final report. Take the online survey, find the updated resources, and join us, if you'd like to join us once again. We have our final community engagement forum at Brookland on September 11th. Please take 2 minutes to give us some feedback. There's a survey on the back of your worksheet. I encourage you to make sure that you've told us a little bit about who you are. Give us some feedback so we can continue to improve. And again, if you have outstanding burning questions, feedback, something that you just didn't have the opportunity to tell us, make sure you leave that in the comment box as well. Thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your evening.